In Seattle, a high schooler named Light Turner is earning extra cash by answering other student school assignments when suddenly the wind blows and a notebook drops from the sky. The young man picks it up as the rain starts falling, and when he is about to enter the school, he sees a boy who is being bullied by Kenny Doyle. A woman stops them and is also pushed by the bullies, so Light intervenes, but he is knocked out by the man. While he is lying on the ground, a teacher sees him and picks up a paper. Then he is brought into the principal's office, and the man is punished for answering the homework of another student for 2 weeks of detention. Later, while the young man was in the detention office, the teacher left him, so he brought out the notebook he found and started reading and seeing a list of rules. Suddenly, there was thunder, and the lights went out. In a few moments, the young man saw a death god, and he started screaming and ran through the door, but it was locked. Light slapped his face and said it was just a dream, so the demon said he liked that because it was all in his mind, so he tricked the young man into writing the name Kenny Doyle and the cause of his death, who is at the moment bullying a woman outside the building. Then, a few moments later, there is an accident in the streets that causes the man to lose his head. Light is shocked by what he saw, and the demon says if he can't handle it, just put the notebook somewhere and leave it alone for 7 days, and he'll find it a new home. Later, Light and his father, who is a detective, get into an argument about his dad not doing anything to avenge his mother's death. So the young man gets an apple, goes to his room, and gets the notebook where he sees the word Ryuk. Then the demon appeared. The young man asked what he could exactly do with the notebook, so Ryuk asked what he had in mind. Light asked if he could choose how they died, which meant that he could control them, so the demon said that there are limitations and explained Rule 20, where it says that a subject can be influenced for no more than 2 days leading up to his death. And Rule 28, which says that each death must be physically possible, so Ryuk said no shark attacks while someone's on the toilet, even if he loves that idea. So the young man gets the newspaper and looks at it. Then the demon said the name, and the face is all you have to have. So the young man writes the name of the man who killed his mother. Then we see that man impaling himself on a steak knife in the middle of the restaurant. In the morning, James informs his son that Anthony Scommel is dead. Then his father remembered what his wife said, that karma is a bitch. The young man says sorry for what he said earlier, and after his father leaves, Ryuk laughs. At school, Light is reading more of the rules when she is approached by Mia and asks if he knows what happened to Kenny. The young man said that he was there, and Kenny's head exploded into 1,000,000 pieces. Then the woman sees the death note and asks what it is. Light said he couldn't tell her, and as Mia was about to leave, the young man said if she really wanted to know, she must come with him. The two enter a vacant room, and Light hands him the death note and says not to freak out when she sees the demon, but Ryuk said that only the keeper of the note can see him. So the young man told her to read the last entry, where it was written about Kenny Doyle's decapitation. Light said he had a death god, and the woman laughed, so the young man searched on the computer and saw a news about a hostage taking. Light started writing the name of the suspect and the cause of death. Then the man comes outside with the hostage, and with no explanation, he drops his gun and salutes the police, and a SWAT truck runs him over. Then Light showed the woman what he wrote and said I killed him, and Mia was speechless. Later, the young man said he wanted to use the book to kill bad people, so Mia said they could change the world, and then Light brought her into his house. Inside his room, he kissed the girl, and they immediately became attached to each other, making out in the young man's room and writing the names of all the criminals around the world, playing God, and one day Light made an alias named Kira, which means light in Russian and Celtic and also means killer in Japanese. Then we will see news that criminals have died all over the world, and each victim left behind the same message in Japanese, which reads, Lord Kira has returned to punish the wicked. The young man catches the world's attention, and in fear they will be punished by Kira, the criminals start turning themselves in. While most people worship Kira, a man named L is determined to catch him. In Japan, 2 groups of Yakuza killed each other in a nightclub, which struck odd for the Japanese detectives since the group had a truce for over 10 years and wondered how Kira knew about them, so the young man said he tipped him off by sending the names of obscure criminals in the police database and waiting for a hit. Then L and his companion Wadari boarded an aeroplane. Meanwhile, back in Seattle, James met Wadari, and the man told him that L wanted to speak with him regarding Kira's investigation. Then L offered to help him capture Kira because he had an in-depth understanding of the potential suspect. Since the FBI thinks that the killer is operating out of Japan but not because Kira is in Seattle. Meanwhile, Mia created a website for Kira worshippers, where they posted the names of the people who deserve to die, which the young man firmly rejected, saying it may be just rumors. Later, James finally met L in person, and the man informed the detective that his first victim was James Broad, the man who had been hit by the SWAT truck based on his behavior before the man died, where the news is only broadcast in Seattle. So El talked to the press outside the police station, where he challenged Kira to kill him on the spot. Light is watching the news, but he can't do anything because he can't see the face and doesn't even know the man's name. After that, James criticizes El's decision, saying it's too reckless, but the young detective has a theory that the killer must need a name and a face to do his killing. Later that night, the young man asked his father, who is the man on TV wearing a turtleneck, but his father only knew the man by his alias El, and his handler, what Ari. The next day, Light is walking in the street when Ryuk laughs, and he notices someone is following him. Meanwhile, James is angry at the young detective for investigating his son without his knowledge. Light and Mia are at the Ferris wheel. The young man wants to take a break using the Death Note, and the woman intends to kill the FBI agents who have been following them, but Light disagrees, not wanting to kill innocent people. And if he did, it would only indicate that he is Kira. Then the two get back to the young man's house and watch TV, saying the police are gaining momentum in the investigation due to Kira's inactivity. Then the woman leaves, saying she has some work to do. The next day, Director Pearl of the FBI suddenly died of a heart attack. Watari immediately informs the young detective of what happened, so he contacts all the FBI agents on his team. Agent Franks answers his call and tells the agent that the team has been compromised and he must go to the nearest hospital right away, but the man stops responding, and then we see the FBI agents walking, including Franks, entering a building and going into the rooftop and committing suicide by jumping on the rooftop. Then a news report says 12 FBI agents mysteriously committed suicide and said it was the work of Kira. Later at school, Light is accusing Ryuk, so the young man goes home and confronts the demon and threatens him to write Ryuk's name on the note, which makes the death god laugh. Mia was watching TV and see James was giving a statement to the press, furious about what Kira did to the FBI agents, challenging the killer to retaliate. Then the woman gets the death note, and Light stops her, saying they will not kill his dad. Meanwhile, the young detective asks James if he really is ready to give his life, and the man says if that what it takes. Later, El confirmed to Watari that Light Turner is Kira. The young man is in a cafe when suddenly the young detective appears and asks Light if it's a difficult decision, sparing his father's life. Both got into an argument, with the young man defending the actions of Kira while El was saying the 400 people who died needed justice. Light comes home and finds Mia on his doorstep. Then the young man writes Watari's name in the death note with specific details to reveal the young detective's name only to Light, but the young man's plan is not to kill Watari because after he gets the real name of El, based on Rule 89, if the person who writes a name destroys its page prior to the death being carried out, the target will be spared. So he intends to burn Watari's page before the time and date he writes on the death note. But Ryuk warns the man that only one name can be removed from the notebook by burning it. Moments later, Watari called his number and informed him that he did not know the information he wanted because he took responsibility for El only after he left St. Martin's orphanage in Montauk. Then we learn that he is an orphan trained since childhood to become the greatest detective the world has ever seen, and El was 6 years old at the time, the youngest candidate ever. Knowing the man only had 48 hours, he ordered him to go to Montauk and get the information on El. In the morning, Watari boards a train while the young detective notices his close friend is not in the office. So El went to the man's hotel room and found no one. Then we see the young detective walk into James' house and tells him that his son is Kira, and Watari has disappeared. He shows a search warrant then threatens Light, and demands that he return Watari safe. After that, we see police searching the entire house. The next day, the young man learns that Mia has the death note. Meanwhile, Watari arrives at St. Martin's orphanage, and Light gets the death note in Mia's locker and contacts the man with a few minutes left. The young man sees that the page is missing, and Watari runs out of time and is killed by the police. Light goes back, and the woman admits to him that she is the one who killed the FBI agents the night she tore a page in the death note and hid it inside the calculus book. So the young man said she would never hold the book again, so Mia informed him that she had written Light's name in the death note and would die at midnight tonight, but if he gave the notebook to her, then she would burn his page. In the meantime, El finds out that Watari is dead. Devastated, the young detective gets a gun and drives a police car to go after Light. Meanwhile, Kira confirms that his name is in the book, so he looks at the website that Mia creates and starts writing names in the death notes. The police arrive, and the young man messages Mia to meet him at the Ferris wheel. Later, Light tries to convince his girlfriend not to take the book. And when he thought everything would be all right, the woman suddenly grabbed the book from him. Then the Ferris wheel mysteriously collapsed. Both of them fall, and the woman instantly dies when she lands on the ground, while Light falls into the water along with the death notes and a piece of paper lands on the fire, consuming it. Then we see an old man get the book on the river. After 2 days, 4 new killings are identified by the media, and L's skills are being questioned because Light Turner can't possibly do it because he's in a coma. Meanwhile, an old man appears in the young man's room in the hospital and returns the death note to him. Later, the young detective is on a plane, and he remembers that Light mentioned to him that death can be handed out through the calculus book. He calls someone on the phone and learns that Light's girlfriend has a subject in calculus, so he stops the plane from taking off. Meanwhile, the young man wakes up and hides the book under his pillow, then his father visits him and says he knows now that it was him all along. Then he showed the newspaper and said James Broad was not the first victim, it was Anthony Scommel. Then his father asked how. Next, we see how Light manages to escape death by writing a series of events in the death note, starting with a doctor who sexually assaults female patients under sedation, saving him from the river, putting him in a medically induced coma for 2 days before killing himself, and then a mailman who molested a dozen children, who retrieves the death note from the river, and each night the man writes the names of criminals in the book, and then returns the book to him on day 2, then kill himself. And finally, when Mia takes the death note from him, the Paris wheel will collapse, and as she falls, she will pull the page with Light's name written on it, and it will be consumed by fire, and then she will strike the shoreline, dying instantly. Light says he made a lot of mistakes but tried to fix them, but it did not work out. And he only intends to kill the bad guys. At the same time, L is in Mia's room, finds the calculus book, and sees a page of paper with the names of the FBI agents that were killed. Devastated by the loss of Watari, he thinks of writing Light's name in it, but he stops thinking that the woman is responsible and that Light is trying to stop it. Then we see Ryuk laugh, saying humans are interesting. Thank you for watching movie quotes and recaps. And for more videos, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell.